great to see you again. This time we'll be straying away from the usual stuff that we've come to expect for October. So yeah, enough of the spooky stuff for now, and we'll turn around and talk about love. Shocking, right? Feels like everyone needs their dose of love and romance, especially in trying times like these. So for this edition of ViniTube Lists, we'll be going through 10 of the best romantic anime films in my opinion. As a disclaimer, I've decided to go for standalone anime films here. While I know that there are some great romance anime films tied to an existing franchise, I'd like to give more focus to these standalone films. Maybe we can have a generalist best anime tie-in films list somewhere down the line, maybe. So for now, hit that subscribe button and let's get the show started. Let's start off with a Shinkai film, 5 centimeters per second. Long-distance relationships are complicated. I've never been in one myself, but I can imagine how it feels being so far away from your loved one for such a long period of time. At times, you struggle to make it work, but most of the time, circumstances seem to tear you apart and make it seem like you just weren't meant to be together. Wow, I just painted a pretty pessimistic picture there, didn't I? That's exactly the core premise of the film 5 centimeters per second. The movie tells the story of 2 childhood friends who try to keep their relationship going through life's changes. We're treated to seeing their relationship develop despite being torn away from each other in a drama that examines the harsh realities of having a long-distance relationship. It's a slow melodrama in the literal sense of the word, and the movie really has its way with pulling the heartstrings. I really like how love and relationships get portrayed in this film, and at first, I didn't expect that I'd feel emotions along with these characters that I've only known for a little over an hour or two. As with any other Shinkai-led product, the animation and the background art are just astounding and are the things to watch this movie for by themselves. From one renowned film name to another, as we continue on the list with Whisper of the Heart. There are several things that Shizuku Tsukishima likes. Among them is the hobby of reading books, which is what leads her to notice that her favorite books are being checked out by a person named Seiji Amasawa. Naturally, curiosity strikes and she decides to seek the boy out. Along the way, she encounters a cat named the Baron and finally gets to know Seiji. In contrast to the driven boy, Shizuku doesn't really have much in mind for the future. Will a fated meeting with the boy cause her to slowly find her purpose in life? Now that's quite a surprise from Ghibli if you were to ask me. When we look at it, a lot of Ghibli films tend to be whimsical and fantastical adventures, something magical if you were to put it simply. In contrast, Whisper of the Heart seems to be a lot more grounded in reality. That's not to say that the fantastical elements are absent, but the realistic dimensions really do their part in giving the movie an alternative angle to view things from. Pretty much everything else you've come to expect from Ghibli's in this film, and those include detailed art, a moving plot, and more intricate stuff such as psychology and expression that we've come to like these films for. Moving on from the titans of the anime film industry temporarily, we have Anthem of the Heart as our next film. Ever feel like just retreating and not speaking up for the fear of messing up and ruining everything? I certainly did at several points in my life, so if you're like me and you've gone through those instances, this next film could be something that you can relate to. As I've already said, Anthem of the Heart's premise is about the internal struggle about expressing yourself. If you're someone who's had as rough of an early childhood as the self-blaming Jun Naruse, expressing your honest thoughts can certainly cause some issues. It was so bad that she grew up bearing a curse from a fairy egg that prevents her from speaking up, quite literally. Worse yet, the high schooler Jun gets thrust into a musical which she strongly rejects until she hears the singing of schoolmate Sakagami. Besides the aforementioned themes I can relate to, I also had the pleasure of watching this film at a premiere screening, so the film does carry a special place in my heart. Now, biases aside, I think that the film does a lot of things well. It may not be as dramatic or romantic as some of the other movies that we'll be seeing down the line on this list, but it develops its drama quite nicely and is well paced. The characters are likable, and it also shows the nice concept of growth, marked by the loss of childlike innocence and coming face to face with the reality concerning people around you. I won't say Anthem of the Heart is a masterpiece or anything like that, but I honestly think that this film is quite overlooked. So do yourself a favor and watch this underrated movie. We've got some more Ghibli coming your way now with Castle in the Sky. It sometimes feels that love just emerges from a thrilling adventure, one that goes beyond the borders of what humans typically experience. Adversity builds love, and finding that special person when you're in a pinch seems to be becoming more and more common. Well, in Castle in the Sky, our protagonist Shita finds herself the target of government agents seeking her amulet. A pirate attack on the ship she's held captive in opens the doors to meeting Pazu, a boy looking to reach Laputa, the legendary castle in the sky. Together, they decide to embark on a big journey to reach that castle, but it's not without its troubles. The government agents are still hot on their trail, and they also have a desire to reach Laputa for their own selfish purposes. Thus, a wild chase and an adventure that takes you beyond the skies commences. I don't blame you if you're getting some serious Last Exile vibes with this movie. Castle in the Sky is the first film produced by Ghibli, and you can see a style that they've somehow deviated from in favor of the more magical and fantastic tales that most kids have grown to love. You can clearly see this as the movie where the studio is still finding its way and establishing a foundation for their future films, which I think are mostly better. Nonetheless, Castle in the Sky tells an exciting story of adventure and romance that I think you should definitely watch. In the bright eyes of a teenager, growing up can be a chore, a drag, or whatever unpleasant thing can be used to describe it. You suddenly find yourself saddled with responsibilities and seeming pressure from the world to pick a path to take for the future. Well, if only you have the ability to travel through time and fix things, it wouldn't have been that big a problem, right? Now, this all seems to be too good to be true for Makoto, who, finding herself at a crossroads in her life, stumbles upon the power to literally leap through time. At first, she uses the power for mundane things, like to avoid getting late, getting perfect grades, or experiencing fun moments again. But who would be satisfied by those? How about altering love confessions and things like that? Makoto soon learns that meddling with the past can have some far-reaching consequences, and that her leaps are actually limited. As Homura can spend an eternity telling you, moving across time is far more complicated than it seems at first glance, and it's a power that should be treasured and used responsibly. I know Mamoru Hosoda most for the Digimon movie and Summer Wars, which are basically the same film, but I digress. What I mean to say is that I have generally an idea of how his films look and how they go, and I think that The Girl Who Leapt Through Time is probably his best work after Wolf Children. The premise may be simple, and its execution for the most part is, but that's what Hosoda excels at, taking something simple and making the most out of it. The message of the film is simple, but the themes hit hard, especially if you're someone who has some reservations about the present and the future. Coming up next is Weathering with You, also by Makoto Shinkai. To what lengths are you willing to go for love? I think that one question is the main theme tying together the second Shinkai film on our list today, Weathering with You. In Weathering with You, Tokyo finds itself assailed by never-ending rain. This is the city that runaway student Hodaka arrives to. Struggling to find a meaning of sustaining himself, Hodaka takes on a job as a member of a news publisher and sets off to tackle the legend of the Sunshine Girl, a legendary person who can temporarily clear the skies. Doesn't take too long for him to find the Sunshine Girl in the form of Hina Amano, a girl who can call out the sun through prayer. Things seem to be going well for the two of them, but as fate would have it, Hina is more than what she seems, and her powers come at a hefty price that will change not only the couple's lives, but the fate of Tokyo forever. A fairly recent movie, I think that it wouldn't be inaccurate to call Weathering with You a spiritual successor to Shinkai's other work, Your Name. Besides the fact that both are Shinkai works and have the trademark traits of the movie, such as the stunning visuals, both talk about love that transcends fate. However, Weathering with You does a good job at making an alternative angle at those themes, and I clearly recall that when it first screened, the movie had quite the controversial reception thanks to the characters' resolutions. Now, remember what I said about Ghibli still building their foundation with Castle in the Sky? Well, here's another castle-related film, and I think that it's at this point that Ghibli has already evolved into the anime movie juggernaut that fans love today. Howl's Moving Castle sure gives off that Disney energy that gave Miyazaki his nickname. It tells of the titular castle where the powerful wizard lives in. An object of myth, he makes his presence felt to Sophie. However, this encounter causes the Witch of the Waste to lay a curse on Sophie, turning her into an old woman. In a bid to bring her back to her normal normal self, Sophie seeks the power of the wizard and his companions, but Hal has more than his hands full in the background as a war threatens to erupt and tear the world apart. While the main theme of the movie is Hal's relationship with Sophie, the film also has some pacifist messages embedded in it too. There's a lot of detail and storylines to follow, and while it leads to a narrative that can seem scattered and out of focus at times, it also leads to the amazing possibility of the audience finding something new with every watch of this movie. This film often gets compared to Spirited Away, and while I maintain that the former is the more enjoyable film, Howl's Moving Castle is right up there with the studio's masterpieces. At number 3 is the third Shinkai work on the list, Garden of Words. Two people feeling lost and directionless in life come across each other. As they develop a relationship with each other, you see that they learn to stand up and find a purpose in life. A true, tried and tested formula that several directors and anime studios have taken a crack at. Uniquely enough, our stars this time are two people with a rather big age gap. Aspiring shoemaker Takao Akizuki spends his time pursuing his passion in a garden. The boorish monotony of ordinary life doesn't interest him, and this is where he meets 27-year-old Yukaru Yukino, a woman who somehow has the same dilemma as him, with her struggling to fit in with adult society. Getting to know each other, the two of them find out that they're able to help and lift each other's spirits up by talking and being with each other. However, that's not the end to their problems, and the question remains whether their relationship will be strong enough to be the true path for them to find their inner peace. I think the Garden of Words could have just been better with a longer running time. It may just be me, but with a little over 40 minutes of running time, a romance like this would fall short in some developments. It's not like this is a whimsical tale with magic and fantasy like half of the previous movies on the list, but it's a piece of art which will pull your heartstrings with impressive visual expression. Even with its short runtime, this movie is definitely an enjoyable watch for what it is. Second place is one hell of a tearjerker movie, Hotarubi no Mori. At times, it seems to be cruel, right? The fact that love often comes with clauses and all these restrictions that put everything into hard mode. You can't do this, you can't do that, you have to do this, you have to do that, and so on. Yeah, I know that feeling exactly. Intrigued by legends like most young girls here, Hotaru loses her way in an ancient forest. Luckily for her, she gets saved by a mysterious masked boy named Jin. Jin leads her out of the forest, and on the way, she finds out that she can't touch the boy, otherwise he's going to disappear. Despite all the odds, the two eventually grow close together, and Hotaru ends up visiting Jin every summer. However, their relationship gets put to the test once and for all as the no-touch rule starts becoming tougher to keep for the two of them. Hotarubi no Mori is a short movie, clocking in at just around 45 minutes. However, with the limited time it has, it makes full use of it and comes up with a romantic movie full of tragedy and drama. I think it's one of the best tearjerker anime movies out there. It also has one of the most complete depictions of forbidden love that I know off the top of my head. It's a joy to watch the two main characters grow closer, and it certainly made me emotional to see how the rules threaten to tear them apart forever. Finally, we cap off this list with the last Shinkai work on our list, Your Name. Just who hasn't heard of one anime movie that helped anime burst further into mainstream? Receiving almost unanimous acclaim, I think that Your Name is a shoo-in as an entry to the list, and it's not unimaginable for it to be at the very top, if not the top 3. Probably one of the most influential anime movies of the past years, Your Name truly deserves all the accolades and praise. For those who've yet to watch the film, it starts off with being your typical body swap shenanigans. City boy Taki and Itomori girl Mitsuha somehow obtain the ability to swap bodies with each other. As you expect, comedy ensues as the two use each other's bodies in order to experience new things and leave messages of frustration for the other. Things soon come grinding to a halt when the swapping phenomenon stops, leaving Taki to go on a wild chase to look for the girl that he'd come to know quite well. However, the road to Itomori is one filled with shocking revelation after another, and Taki soon finds himself entangled in the webs of a love that transcends time. What more needs to be said? The movie's pretty much everything that you want from a film of this genre. The comedy segments work well with the dramatic parts, and as with most Shinkai works, like I've already said twice, the art is just breathtaking. I personally enjoyed this movie the most among the films that I've talked about on this list, and it's largely to do with how likable the characters are, as well as the suspenseful second act. Still, the best way to enjoy this film isn't to just listen to some guy on the internet talk about it, but to experience the magic yourself. So go watch Your Name now.
君の名前は
Funny how that ended up being a Shinkai and Ghibli showcase most of the way, isn't it? It just goes to show how great some of these anime personalities are in crafting stories and leading their team into amazing products for everyone to enjoy. If you have any other recommendations for me, make sure to let me know in the comments section. I'm also interested in knowing what your favorites among the list entries are and how you would have ordered things differently. As usual, I'd love you to subscribe and be part of the community to help the ViniTube team reach its next milestone. Take care out there, stay strong, and remain awesome. I'll be seeing you next time with some more anime goodness.